Hello, this is Friendly Cat, and I've got a great one for you today. We're going to be doing Finnish Him, the achievement as Finland, in which we capitulate the Soviet Union, and we're going to be taking care of this before, historically, the Winter War even started. I really enjoy this run. It's a lot of fun. We get to go on a rampage. We're going to take out our Scandinavian neighbors, and then we're going to take out the Allies, take out the United States, and then when Russia comes looking for us, it's going to be easy peasy and a lot of fun. So the start of this run will begin with, of course, a civil war. So we're going to wait to about 150 political power after taking our first focus and pausing, and then taking the decision to reduce our stability so we can start the civil war. Now I'll make it seem like this easy peasy, but there's going to be easy and hard parts of this run, and we are kind of on a timetable that we need to meet. So we're going to take our stability loss, go into a civil war, and then begin by recruiting a few scout divisions. These are the 4-width cavalry. When they're ready to deploy, we're going to deploy them individually in different locations. Our goal is not to defeat our Finland friends, but in fact to take victory points to end the civil war as fast as reasonably possible. And that's very easy to do with cavalry because they can move faster than generally the opposing side's infantry. A little careful maneuvering around, and before you know it, even our physically weak, our militarily weak army will have capitulated, and we've won that war. I'm going to start to show more of how different divisions are built in this guide, and one of which is we're going to slowly build up our army from the cavalry over to infantry because they'll perform better in naval invasions. I do have a whole guide on divisions templates, and I'll include that in a link below. But we're beginning with, in this case it's actually a 6 battalions of infantry, 1 battalion of line artillery, but eventually it will be built up. Our naval invasion network still relatively easy. We land on the port, we land next to the port, we land all around the ports. In this way, our army is likely to load. Even without supply, we're still strong enough to achieve victory against Denmark. In this case, they decide to abandon their capital. That's very gracious of them. So we will take it and then annex and capitulate the entire country and take all of Denmark as the first of our 3 Scandinavian neighbors. I'll also be showing you some of our tank designs. I go for cheap tanks to help with the infantry. So this is an interwar medium. Again, don't be deterred. You've heard me say this in other videos. Don't be deterred about the word interwar. It's going to work just fine for what we need. Our naval invasion of Netherlands, we land on the port, next to the port, next to the port, and we'll also drop a few divisions on their capital. Oh, and it looks like they abandoned the capital. They don't usually abandon the capital, but this time they did, or at least the port next to the capital, next to Amsterdam, which allows us to land with our garrison divisions and then relatively quickly take the Netherlands. We will annex the Netherlands, and then we will puppet the Dutch East Indies. And at this point, we have enough manpower to comfortably defeat the Soviet Union. You do not need to proceed any further to still win this achievement. Of course, I will for this run. We're going to continue on to take out Scandinavia. Now, when we want to move divisions around or create new division templates, a good point of view is to take the original template and then duplicate it into lower levels. In this case, I want the Dutch East Indies to create 72 single battalion divisions that I plan to eventually convert up. We will be justifying on Japan after they go to war with China because we will be utilizing Lend Lease. As you can tell, we do not actually produce our own infantry weapons. Why would we when we can get it through Lend Lease? You can see what our focus tree looks like. We sat for about, I think it's 200, 300 days without even taking any focus to save up political power. That's why even in the middle of July, we've only completed, July 37, we've only completed 3 focuses. And now that we have taken out, we've justified on Japan, we're also going to create our police division. This is the garrison division, a single cavalry battalion. And now we'll declare on Japan, which opens up Lend Lease. Oh, look at that nice world tension. Lots of world tension. In the middle of 37 means lots of Lend Lease, not just from fascist and communist countries, but also non-aligned countries. Poland is going to spend the next 2 years giving us all sorts of Lend Lease. Hungary will give us Lend Lease, Yugoslavia. And in this case, we're going to kind of spend a lot of political power, but also conserve it and just take the larger countries, including Turkey. Romania is in fact still democratic, so they couldn't easily give us Lend Lease. That's how early we are on the world tension. We check our different screens to make sure Lend Lease is still available, and we've taken every available country. We're also starting to build up those puppet divisions, right? We took them a 4 battalion and brought it down to 1 to initially send them off so we could put them in place, and now that we're starting to get infantry opens, we're going to build up into a 12 width. We're also starting to move toward the 18 width, 6 battalions of infantry, 2 battalions of line artillery and recon, and we're also planning toward our 27 width. Again, duplicating out, using similar names, similar icons that we use in other runs to help, at least for me, helps me remember what division does what. Because we've got some attacks coming. As we now complete the 27 width, we don't have enough infantry weapon or artillery to make every division that large, so we'll do what we can. We're also going to add support artillery to our defensive divisions, which our puppets are providing, and then put 2 divisions in each of our little defensive areas over to switch over to the support artillery. A 12 width with support artillery is has the highest, or one of the highest support soft attack versus IC in the game later on, particularly if you go down the right side of superior firepower, which we had a hard time going. We'll also make Lend Lease divisions to make it a little easier and more convenient to Lend Lease in the future. And now we're ready for the invasion of Scandinavia. The Allies will join, but because we control Denmark, they cannot assist they cannot assist Sweden, which is the second of our 3 Scandinavian nations that we want to make our formidable nation. We really want to take that island. So I'm going to lay mines in that sea zone. I'm going to put my fleet out there. I'm going to have a naval invasion. And I'm really hoping Sweden will shuffle their fleet around. But that's okay. If they don't, I've also got paratroopers ready to stand by. And I'm going to put out a spotter sub right next to it to see. So as soon as they abandon that port, I can drop a paratrooper in. And if that doesn't work, eventually Germany will enter the war and they will give us fleet coverage. So I will be forming that special Nordic formidable nation. One way or another, we're going to get on that island. But I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. Even on this run, we don't see it so much, but every 15 seconds, 10 seconds, I'm peeking over there to see, have they abandoned it? Can I drop my paratroopers on it? And of course, if they ever shuffle their fleet even so much for an hour, we will automatically land with the fleet. We'll have naval superiority even for an hour, and the fleet will land. Now, defeating the rest of Sweden is relatively straightforward. As you can see, our armies overpower them, and cavalry lead the day. That's going to be a reoccurring theme throughout this whole run. Cavalry leads the way. They are the fastest unit in general. They have no terrain malices, they don't use fuel, and with taking Sweden's capital, they're just about ready to fall out. And I realize that I'm probably not going to get that island. No big deal. We'll just worry about it when Germany joins, or, oh, look at that. Spotter subs, both to the west and east of the island, have picked up that port is now unguarded. There are no enemy divisions there, so we will be dropping paratroops on it. I liked this, because at this point, it makes the life much easier, because it means we're going to be comfortably finishing up Sweden, and with Sweden destroyed, or capitulated, not annexed yet because they joined the Allies, we're going to distribute our troops along the Norway border and go to war with Norway. Norway has a little bit of an army, but nothing that can stop us, of course. The border's just too long, and we're going to send troops all over. And here is an example of the plane template we'll be using. Because I'm short on rubber, I'll be using double armor plates. The divisions that I've spread out throughout my areas can comfortably hold off naval invasions. I'm not going to bait them because I don't want them to actually land next to the port. I don't want them anywhere near the port. I don't want any chance of me losing the Netherlands or any of our annexed lands, controlled lands. As we continue to move through Norway, it's not too tough. Oh, looks like the Allies have come to play. Oh, welcome to the game. I'm so happy you've joined us. And this is where the game run starts to become a little bit more difficult. But it's also the part when it becomes a little bit easier. I finally have enough army experience to start putting tanks out. For me, I used the sword icon to identify which are my assault or tank troops, and although at this exact moment they don't have the tanks to do much, within a few days they'll get filled up with armor, and then suddenly we'll be doing roughly they'll be about 4 times as effective as a similar division without tanks. We're continuing to push, and it is a little bit challenging because the Allies are in mountains, they've got ports, I think they even have air power, but continue to press through, continue to use your assault divisions, use your scouts and cavalry to move around and take open spaces as much as possible. It's far easier to take a land that isn't controlled than is, and just like that, we've got them. And now we can form, oh, that pretty blue. What a pretty, pretty blue. We actually control the port, which means if I can keep those divisions engaged, those enemy allied divisions engaged, they won't be able to land. And with the formidable nation, we get a lot more factories. Now I'm starting to focus more and more on air power because we've got some tough fights ahead of us, particularly with paradropping into the allies. So let's take a look. Oh, and it looks like our paratroopers can be put to use right now. We're going to drop into our own port. We're going to drop behind the lines, and they immediately go into combat, but we're going to drop additional paratroopers just to make it that much less likely. There will be no Dunkirk of Norway. There will be no evacuation of Allied troops. You're going to spend the rest of your lives in Norway because there is no prisoners of war mechanic here in Hearts of Iron 4 at the moment. So we're going to drop paratroopers around, and not too much longer before we're able to encircle and defeat the last of the Allied troops. Now I mentioned scouts. We've been using 4 with cavalry with recon, but now that I'm starting to get built up, we're going to make proper 12 with extremely fast, extremely effective divisions, not necessarily for direct combat. By no means do we want to use as assault troops, but for open ground. And oh, looks like we're going to be able to hold South America too. At this point, we've converted most of our divisions over to the 12 with support artillery, and they're comfortably holding off and eating the French and British. The race across the water. What's the story? I don't need to be faster than the subs, I just need to be faster than you. So yeah, some of our folks will drown in the water, but most of them will make it across. It's important to try to send everyone at the same time. Don't let them trickle through, otherwise the subs will be able to pick them apart. But this way, some get lost. Motorized units. I do like mobility units, so we're going to start to build up our motorized. At this point, it's just a 12 with, looks a lot like cavalry, but eventually we'll build them up. When we go to war with Belgium, the goal is not to capitulate Belgium. The goal is to capitulate France. Keep your eyes on that prize. For that reason, we will head down the west coast. The strategy here isn't that much different than Germany's historical strategy. We want to let France move north into Belgium, move their armies north, while we stay on the west side and move around. I know it's not exactly the same as going through the Ardennes, but that's the concept. Don't get caught up. We don't want to be grinding in Belgium. That's not the goal. The goal is to fight around the outside, and by this time there are already English troops in France, so it's going to be a little bit tough. But with the assault troops, only 3 at this point, and with cavalry, we'll be moving right along. Understand that when you run out of fuel, when you get out of the range of a supply hub, the assault troops and the motorized will run out of fuel and drop to a crawl. Cavalry does not. So we want to put cavalry at the front and make sure they're continuing to push forward as much as possible into uncontrolled territory. They're often going to be fighting, just inevitable, but they can actually defend. We'll also take infantry, the infantry trait for our general, which makes him just a little bit more powerful. We'll eventually pick up organizer and motorized as well, but that's not going to happen for a while. Continue to move through France. Stay focused. We're also going to go to total mobilization. Now, most of my runs, total mobilization hasn't done me any good, and at this point I'm thinking total mobilization may not help me that much. I've got a long way to go. France, I think I'm pretty sure I can take out France, but Britain's going to be a little bit harder. Now our 1938 tanks, medium tanks, are similar to our interwar tanks. Same concept, cheap armor to be put on for the assault troops. We're not building them around the motorized. We want cheaper ones to help with the infantry. We're going to continue to fight through France, and here we go, just about ready to take Paris. So we don't have that much farther to go. The French army continues to sit up in Belgium, which is exactly where we want them. We do not want to push them out of Belgium and push them to France. We want them to sit up there and up into Belgium. It won't take them much longer as we continue through our last few provinces, last few states. Notice that their cavalry almost always at the front, pushing forward into those open territories. And we'll move some air power to help with the last little bit. And as we breathe, France, you belong to me. Now we're also going to be keeping an eye on air. We have a very short timeline to take care of Belgium and then try to jump across England while the air situation is still kind of in dispute. But without France to help Belgium, they fall very quickly. Let's watch the air screen and see what it looks like, and notice where the air is available, and move the paratroopers and move quickly, really quickly. And then in this case, we're going to drop into England. As you can tell, we have the spotter subs, and although at this screen it looks like Dover is open, at the time we made the Paradrop, Dover wasn't, so we just dropped all around. I think it's Portsmouth there. We dropped all around southern England, and then our army just ran across. England did a great job defending their ports. At the time I was looking, there was only one open port. If there wasn't open port, no big deal. We would just continue into into Spain and Portugal. With the Dutch East Indies and with all this industry, we're fine. Spotter subs are now sent back to port, and now we're now going to tear right through England. England does a good job defending, but as is often in this case, we have at this point four assault troops, several motorized divisions that can race ahead, and in high supply areas, motorized is often going to be a little bit faster. And so that's one of the reasons you're seeing motorized kind of be a little bit ahead of the cavalry. Cavalry does better in low supply, or where the supply hubs are farther apart. We're continuing to move through. There's no need to kill off every English troop or every English pocket. Just continue to move through. Use your Dutch East Indies defensive troops to kind of hold behind the line, while our Finnish, or I guess now Nordic troops, are the main assault. And it's not going to be that much longer before we finally take our last motorized and head, and that's it. We've got the allies, and because we did so much work, we should pretty much be able to clean house on everything. Okay, Italy's got a little bit of war score, but we should really clean house. My priority is the fleet. Believe it or not, I'm confident I'm going to pick up so much of the land, but we're going to spend our first turn actually going after the fleet to ensure, not that Italy doesn't take it, but I don't know if we can even contest it, and I want that fleet. Oh, looks like Italy's going for 35 states. It's a little bit ridiculous. I don't really think they should be able to gain that much land from the war score. This is a little bit ugly. You know, I think that I could have done a lot better in the peace conference to make it look a little bit cleaner. I mean, we still picked up everything we needed to pick up, and we still did a lot, but can't say I'm not really that happy with how it worked out, just from my own point of view. And we can take a look at it. A little bit of a border gore, not too bad. We did manage to get the Suez Canal. And as I look around, I'm like, okay, I guess that's going to be all right. One thing I'm starting to notice is that I need to get better at how I do the peace conference, because even when I got lots of war score, I don't do all that well. We're also going to start building infantry now. Resistance is going to be a problem, so for the rest of the game, and because we now have enough military factories, our focus is on infantry. Lend Lease is no longer going to be sufficient to make that happen. Shown on the screen, you may notice we don't have that many technical advisors. We still have the stability guy, we have the political power, and of course our demagogue, and the army offense, total mob, and a 5% recruitable pop, but that's it. Everything else, all the political power has typically gone into Lend Lease. Alright, we managed to keep Suez, that's good. I got Gibraltar. Oh. I actually edited part of this out because I was just looking at this and looking at this and looking at this. That's my own fault. I should have done a better job, but I do not like that Italy managed to get, and I am not happy. Now they got Sudetenland and Czechoslovakia. I'm sure Germany's not happy with that, but I'm really not happy with Belgium. Alright, to help defend against a potential Japanese invasion, because while our Dutch East Indies puppet was never called into the war with Japan, the rest of our land is at war and at risk of naval invasion. So we're going to move some divisions over there. We don't have to put artillery in them, just some infantry equipment. And we finally got enough 1936 subs to send out our first fleet. I generally make 6 groups of 4 or 24 subs per fleet. That seems to work the best for me as far as gaining traits and achieving damage. And right now I'm just going to tickle the Japanese. We're just going to tickle. We don't have enough subs to do much damage, but you're going to get tickled, and later on we're going to get scratched. We're going to scratch you. And we're now also going to build up our motorized divisions, start to convert them into 18 West. So now they've got some punch to motorized or line battalions of motorized artillery. I'm going to change the shape a little bit just because I tend to make those 18 West look a little different. And you know what? I may have been upset about what Italy did or what I did regarding Italy, but it makes me feel good to kind of take that out on the United States. You may notice we're up to, I think, about 6 assault divisions now. We still don't have a tremendously powerful army, but we've got a lot of divisions. When attacking the United States, we attack from the 4 corners. Land in the northeast, land attack in the northwest, naval invasion in the southeast into Florida. We're also going to naval invasion into the southwest into California, Los Angeles. And in this case, the cavalry is just going to have a field day in the southeast. There are no enemy divisions. These are very fast scouts, so they're just going to run rampant across the United States. In the northeast, the assault divisions were able to do quite well. Now we're also now gaining enough political power that I'm ready to switch out into the army design so that we can prepare for military police. So we're going to take the army spirit, which lets us make cavalry battalions without paying for army experience, and we're going to make the first large group, the first large division. At this point, it's not any more effective than a single battalion, but when we pick up military police as a support company, it will be much more effective. That will be a little bit from now, but that's what we're doing now, preparing for military police. And we'll also take a different army spirit, which gives us more army experience, command power, and slightly cheaper army doctrines. Meanwhile, we've landed now in Texas, which is another good place to land. And it's not that much longer before, sure enough, capitulating the United States. We're going to take everything. We're going to take their fleet. And we're also going to take a look at our different military. We're continuing to expand. We're kind of past the point of any real risk of failure at losing the war. And actually, it's kind of good that I went total mode, because with all these civs from the United States, we're doing quite well. Well, let's take out Spain. Why not? Let's just continue our expansion. Russia's going to start justifying us in a little bit. Oh, well, let's collab them too. But we've got time before they justify. So let's take out Spain. Maybe we'll take out Portugal. Who knows what else we're going to take care of. But let's just continue to expand, because more factories is more factories. And just like that, here's what our research looks like. We're actually doing pretty good. Even though we were slow on going down the research tab, we only start with 3 slots, we're pretty much caught up in research. Oh, Russia wasn't going to wait till the historical Winter War start. They want to start justifying us now. And I've got no troops anywhere near the Nordic Empire, and I've got 55 days or so. Well, thank goodness I was a little bit quick in taking out the United States, because if we'd been slow on that, we could have had a bunch of troops caught. Fortunately, they already started to cross across the water, so we'll work on that. And we're losing a few convoys, but it's all right. We're also, believe it or not, short on fuel with, I think, close to 750 plus ships, maybe close to 1,000. We're going to build up infrastructure and also start with with military police. Let's see how helpful military police is. That adding that support company, it costs tech, it costs army experience to move things around. Let's see if this changes our deficit of infantry equipment. And it does, pretty spectacularly. So even a single level of military police, to me, is worth it, particularly in a large world conquest style achievement run, which is what this is. And this is an actual real world conquest, but it's expanded. Oh, I love it. I love getting these calls when a foreign country calls for crushing our nationalism. Oh, that's so amazing. Bring it on. All right, now I still don't know much about surface navy, so I think my navy's better than the Japanese navy, so let's send them out and let's see what happens. At the very least, I can watch a battle. Okay, my numbers are bigger. I don't know. It's stormy, though, so we don't have an aircraft carrier. I don't really know much about this, but it's still fun to watch. Oh, I lost a couple cruisers, and they lost convoys, but it's a victory. All right, I'll call it a victory. All right, there's something else you want to keep an eye on, and that is attrition. Attrition is the secret killer of infantry equipment. So if you're building a front line and then you notice that you're attritioning troops as they stand there, pull them back. Pull them out of the front line. There's nothing there. The Winter War begins in long before the winter. I think it's April or so, 1939. So I don't think that's the Winter War, but is that spring? I'm not sure. In any case, we're not waiting. We're busting right across the line. You know, we have a lot of firepower. We've got a lot of assault divisions. We're not wasting any time taking out the Soviet Union. There's no real fear of failure at this point. I'm saying there's no way to fail this achievement, because we had enough time. That 55 days was enough time to move the troops back home and actually get them in place to start attacking. The way to defeat the Soviet Union, particularly in this type of scenario when you have such a large army, is try to build small pockets, a couple divisions here, a couple divisions there, expand out, And along the way, you're going to take losses. You're going to take, hopefully not get encircled, of course, but you're going to take infantry losses. You're going to take manpower losses, but you can get it done. And this is kind of maybe the first of the larger encirclements up in the north. But with each encirclement, of course, it becomes easier. My point of view is just to be cautious, be safe. There is a lot of micro. I've formed a front line with the Dutch East India troops forming the defensive backbone of our divisions, of our attack. Oh, that's a nice little encirclement, nice little pocket. It's important when using puppet troops for them to form the defensive backbone. Otherwise, they can gain enough autonomy and break free. Oh, that's a nice large encirclement. And it's really, and I can't really tell how easy it is for the viewer to see, but cavalry leads the way. Alright, more large encirclements. More large pockets, I guess you could call bulges. All because cavalry can now start snaking forward. They don't run out of fuel, so as long as they can get some local supply, they can continue to move forward relatively quickly. And we're reaching the end of this run. The Soviet Union has now lost enough troops, we've got enough pockets, that we're moving forward. And well, we did do a collab government. Fortunately, one of our spies got captured. I like to try to rescue them, so I'm going to be rescuing him for no, I guess, arguably game-related purpose, but I just feel like I should be rescuing my spies. And we're just about reaching the end here. Cavalry are running rampant. They're doing things that motorized can't necessarily do. We don't have to wait for a supply hole to get captured, for the cavalry continue to run on. We've got 2.1 million casualties to the Soviet Union. We've soloed them effectively. Obviously, Lend Lease was a very important part of our success. And just like that, it's over. Capitulated, annexed, solo. We're going to take the entire country. And this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I know there's some very difficult parts, particularly the attacks into Belgium, France, and into England. But it's a lot of fun. I had fun. I hope that you enjoyed watching it. I hope that this makes it a little bit easier the next time you decide to do the Finnish Him run. If you have any questions or ideas or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you've got an idea about an achievement run you'd like to see me do or try. I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much for watching.